Arizona Territory, 1871. The unforgiving desert sun beat down on Samuel Quinn's back as he rode through the rugged terrain of Apache country. At 25, Sam had already lived several lifetimes' worth of hardship on the frontier. His father's cattle ranch had fallen to rustlers 3 years prior, his mother to consumption a year before that. Now he drifted, taking work where he could find it, avoiding attachments that would only lead to more heartbreak in this merciless land. "A man stands alone in this country," he muttered to his paint horse, Domino, as they picked their way through a narrow canyon. "That's the only truth that matters out here." Sam had seen too many good men die, too many families torn apart by the unrelenting cruelty of frontier life. The harsh lessons had carved themselves into him like the wind-sculpted rock formations that surrounded him. Trust was a luxury he could not afford, and love, well, love was a fairy tale told to children back east who had never faced starvation or watched their kin die in their arms. His latest job was simple enough: deliver supplies to the Coleman mining operation 50 miles north. The pay was decent, and the solitude suited him. He preferred the company of his horse to that of most people. Domino, at least, never made demands or harbored secret intentions. As dusk approached, Sam began searching for a suitable place to make camp. The terrain was opening up, transitioning from canyon walls to scattered juniper and mesquite. A small stream trickled nearby, a blessing in this parched landscape. He dismounted, letting Domino drink while he gathered wood for a fire. The scream pierced the evening stillness like a knife. Sam's hand flew to his Colt revolver as he dropped the firewood. It came again, unmistakably human and female. Without hesitation, he vaulted onto Domino's back and spurred toward the sound, leaving his supplies behind. Cresting a small rise, he saw them: 3 gray wolves circling a young woman who had climbed partway up a mesquite tree. The lowest branch had broken beneath her weight, leaving her dangling precariously just beyond the reach of snapping jaws. Blood darkened the fabric of her dress at the ankle. Sam didn't hesitate. He drew his revolver and fired 2 shots into the air. The wolves scattered momentarily, but quickly regrouped, hunger overriding their fear. One lunged at the woman's dangling foot. "Hold on," Sam shouted, taking careful aim. His next shot caught the bold wolf mid-leap. The animal yelped and fell, while its companions turned their attention to this new threat. Sam fired again, wounding a second wolf. The third circled warily, then turned and loped away, soon followed by its injured companion. The first wolf lay motionless on the ground. Holstering his weapon, Sam approached the tree. The young woman stared down at him with eyes as dark and fathomless as midnight. Her long black hair hung in a single braid over her shoulder. She wore a simple dress that blended both Apache and settler styles, evidence of living between 2 worlds. She couldn't have been more than 20 years old. "You can come down now, miss," Sam called up. "They're gone." She regarded him with a mixture of wariness and relief. "I am not certain I can. My ankle." Sam moved Domino closer to the tree. "Drop down. I'll catch you." After a moment's hesitation, she released her grip on the branch and fell into his waiting arms. Her weight was slight, but the impact still forced a grunt from Sam as he settled her in front of him on the saddle. "Thank you," she said, her accent revealing her native heritage despite her perfect English. "I am Chenoa James. Samuel Quinn," he replied, keeping his voice neutral despite the unexpected closeness of this stranger. "What are you doing out here alone?" "I was gathering herbs when I disturbed their den," she explained. "I did not see the cubs until it was too late." Sam nodded. A mother wolf protecting her young was among the most dangerous encounters in these lands. Chenoa was fortunate to be alive. "I need to get back to my supplies before someone else finds them," Sam said. "Then I'll see to your ankle." As they rode back to his abandoned campsite, Sam was acutely aware of Chenoa's presence. The warmth of her back against his chest, the faint scent of sage and wildflowers in her hair. It unsettled him. He had grown comfortable with solitude, had convinced himself it was preferable. When they reached the campsite, Sam helped Chenoa dismount and settled her beside the stream. Her ankle was swollen, with 2 shallow puncture wounds where wolf teeth had grazed her. "It needs cleaning," he said, removing a bandana from his saddlebag and soaking it in the cool stream water. "You have gentle hands for a cowboy," Chenoa observed as he carefully washed her wound. Sam frowned. I've had practice patching up strays. Am I a stray then? There was humor in her voice. You're... Sam paused, unsure how to respond. You're someone who needed help. Nothing more. Chenoa smiled slightly. And you are someone who provided it without question. That says much about you, Samuel Quinn. Sam, he corrected automatically. Just Sam. Just Sam, she repeated. Well, just Sam. It seems I owe you my life. As darkness fell, Sam built the fire he'd been preparing before the interruption. Chenoa watched him work, her dark eyes reflecting the growing flames. The firelight cast her features in warm relief. High cheekbones, a straight nose, full lips that curved into occasional smiles at his gruff efficiency. Where were you headed? She asked as he offered her a tin cup of coffee. Coleman Mining Camp, Sam replied. Delivering supplies. That is Apache land, she said quietly. Most of this territory was Apache land at some point. She corrected. Is Apache land. My father was a cavalry officer who married my mother after she nursed him back to health. I walk in both worlds, but I know which one has the rightful claim. Sam shifted uncomfortably. I'm just doing a job, ma'am. Of course, she said. And I am just pointing out that your job takes you through dangerous territory. All territory is dangerous for someone traveling alone. Chenoa nodded slowly. This is true, which is why I will accompany you. Sam nearly choked on his coffee. That's not happening. You saved me from the wolves, and now I am in your debt. Among my mother's people, such a debt must be repaid. Consider it repaid by conversation and company for one evening, Sam said firmly. Tomorrow, I'll take you to wherever you need to go, and then I'll continue on my way. Chenoa's expression hardened slightly. You do not understand. I am saying that you are now mine to protect in return. Sam stared at her, bewildered. Yours to what? You're mine now, said the Apache girl after the cowboy saved her from wild wolves. This is our way. The life debt must be honored. Sam ran a hand through his sandy hair in exasperation. Miss James, I appreciate the sentiment, but I work alone. I don't need protection, especially not from a woman. Her eyes flashed dangerously. From anyone, Sam corrected. I've survived this long by relying on myself and no one else. And how lonely that must be, she said softly. The words struck Sam like a physical blow. He turned away, busying himself with his bedroll. Get some rest. Your ankle needs time to heal. In the morning, Sam woke to find Chenoa already up, tending the fire and brewing fresh coffee. She had gathered some kind of herbs and was crushing them between two stones. For the wound, she explained, noticing his gaze. It will prevent festering. Sam nodded his thanks, impressed despite himself. He checked her ankle and found the swelling already reduced. You heal quickly. My mother taught me the old ways, she said, though she also believed in the white man's medicine when it was needed. As they shared a simple breakfast, Sam found himself asking, Where do you live? I said I'd take you home before continuing on. Chenoa smiled enigmatically. My home is currently wherever I am needed. My mother died last winter, and I have been traveling between the reservation and the settlements since then. You have no family waiting for you. My father died at Gettysburg. My mother's family is scattered. I have cousins on the reservation, but... She trailed off, looking into the distance. I do not quite belong there anymore. My father's education has made me different. Sam recognized the expression in her eyes, the look of someone caught between worlds, belonging fully to neither. It resonated with something inside him, some part that had never felt at home anywhere since his parents' deaths. What about you? Chenoa asked. Do you have family? No, Sam said shortly. Not anymore. Then we are the same, she said, meeting his gaze steadily. Two people alone in a vast land. Sam broke eye contact first, uncomfortable with the connection forming between them. We should get moving. I'm already behind schedule. Yes, Chenoa agreed, standing carefully on her injured ankle. We should. Despite his protests, Chenoa gathered her few belongings and prepared to travel with him. Sam realized that short of physically restraining her, which he would never do, he had little choice but to accept her company, at least until they reached civilization. They rode double on domino, Chenoa seated behind Sam, her arms lightly encircling his waist for balance. The contact made him tense at first, but as the miles passed, he gradually relaxed. They traveled in comfortable silence, broken occasionally by Chenoa pointing out medicinal plants or telling stories of the landmarks they passed. That formation, she said, indicating a distinctive rock spire, is called the warrior's finger. It is said that a great Apache chief was turned to stone there while pointing the way home to his lost tribe. Sam found himself listening intently, drawn in by her knowledge and the musical quality of her voice. It had been so long since he'd engaged in real conversation with another person. By midday, they stopped to rest in the shade of a sandstone overhang. Chenoa examined her ankle, applying more of her herbal paste. "You never said what you were doing out here alone," Sam said as he offered her his canteen. "Gathering herbs seems a dangerous occupation in wolf territory." Chenoa took a drink before replying. "I was also looking for someone. A man named Victor Rollins." Sam stiffened. "Rollins is a dangerous man. What business could you possibly have with him?" "He has information I need," she said simply. "About the death of a friend." "Rollins doesn't give information. He sells it, steals it, or buries it with those who cross him." "You know him?" It wasn't a question, but Sam answered anyway. "I've had dealings with him. None pleasant." Chenoa studied his face. "Then perhaps our meeting was not chance after all. Perhaps the spirits have brought us together for a purpose." Sam shook his head. "The only spirits at work here are the wolves who chased you up that tree. Nothing more." "Do you truly believe that?" Chenoa asked. "That there is no greater purpose to our lives? No pattern in the chaos?" "I believe in what I can see and touch," Sam replied. "Everything else is just wishful thinking." Chenoa smiled sadly. "That is a lonely way to live, just Sam." They continued their journey through the afternoon, the terrain growing more rugged as they ascended into higher country. Sam found himself telling Chenoa about his plans, such as they were. To save enough money to start a small ranch somewhere far from Apache conflicts and mining disputes. "A place where a man can live in peace," he said. "That's all I want." "No one to share this peaceful place with you?" Chenoa asked. Sam shook his head. "Peace and people rarely go together in my experience." "Perhaps you have known the wrong people." Before Sam could respond, the crack of a rifle split the air. Domino reared in alarm as dirt kicked up inches from his hooves. Sam pulled Chenoa tight against him with one arm while controlling the horse with the other, spurring Domino toward a cluster of boulders for cover. "Down!" he shouted, practically throwing Chenoa off the horse behind the largest rock. Another shot rang out, striking the stone above their heads. Sam drew his revolver, trying to locate the shooter. "Stay down," he told Chenoa, who was already pressing herself flat against the ground. "Rollins," she whispered. "It must be." "Rollins wouldn't waste time with warning shots," Sam replied grimly. "This is someone else." A voice called out from the ridge above them. "That's far enough, Quinn. Throw out your gun and the girl." Sam recognized the voice with a sinking feeling. "Harlan Jenkins," he muttered. "Bounty hunter. You know him too?" Chenoa asked incredulously. "I told you, I've had dealings with Rollins. Some of them left loose ends." Sam peered around the edge of the boulder, catching a glimpse of movement on the ridge. "Jenkins must be working for him now. What did you do to Rollins?" Sam grimaced. "Let's just say I interrupted a business transaction of his that wasn't entirely legal." "You stole from him." "I recovered property that wasn't his to sell," Sam corrected. "A ledger containing names of officials he's bribed. I delivered it to a federal marshal in Tucson." "So you are an honorable thief." Despite the danger, Sam found himself almost smiling at her description. "I'm no thief. I was hired by the rightful owner to retrieve what was stolen." "Last chance, Quinn," Jenkins shouted. "I've got no quarrel with the girl, but Rollins wants you alive or dead. Don't much care which at this point." Sam counted 2 more figures joining Jenkins on the ridge. The odds weren't good, especially with Chenoa to protect. "We need to split up," he whispered. "I'll draw their fire. You make a run for those trees to the east." Chenoa's hand closed firmly around his wrist. "No," she said. "I told you, you are mine to protect now. We stay together." Before Sam could argue, she reached into a small pouch at her waist and withdrew what looked like dried leaves. Moving to Domino, who was tethered nearby, she whispered something in Apache to the horse while crushing the leaves in her palm and holding them beneath his nostrils. To Sam's astonishment, the horse seemed to calm immediately, its ears pricking forward attentively. "What are you doing?" he hissed. "Creating a distraction," Chenoa replied. She removed Domino's reins and whispered something else to the horse before giving him a firm pat on the flank. The paint horse trotted out from behind the boulders, then suddenly broke into a gallop, heading directly toward the ridge where Jenkins and his men were positioned. The bounty hunters immediately opened fire on the horse, which veered at the last moment, running parallel to their position. "Now," Chenoa urged, tugging Sam toward a depression in the ground that led to a dry creek bed. They scrambled down the embankment as bullets continued to fly overhead, all aimed at the decoy Domino provided. The creek bed offered cover as they ran crouched over, putting distance between themselves and their pursuers. "Your horse," Sam panted as they ran. "He'll be shot." "Domino is smarter than those men," Chenoa assured him. "The herbs I gave him will make him run like the wind, but keep his wits sharp. He will circle back to us when it is safe." They continued through the winding creek bed until the sounds of gunfire faded. Eventually, the dry wash opened into a small canyon with steep walls on 3 sides. They were effectively trapped. "Now what?" Sam asked, scanning the canyon walls for a way out. Chenoa pointed to a narrow crevice partially hidden by brush. "There." The opening was barely wide enough for them to squeeze through sideways. Inside, they discovered a small cave, its entrance invisible from more than a few paces away. "How did you know this was here?" Sam asked suspiciously. "My people have used these lands for generations," Chenoa replied. "Every hiding place, every water source, every pass is known to us." They settled inside the cave as dusk approached, listening for sounds of pursuit. Sam found himself studying Chenoa in the fading light, the determined set of her jaw, the intelligence in her eyes. She was unlike any woman he had ever met. "Why are you really looking for Rollins?" he asked quietly. Chenoa was silent for a long moment. "My friend, Sarah Whitefeather, worked as a laundress at Fort Grant. She was found dead 3 months ago. The Army said it was suicide, but I know better. She had information about illegal sales of Apache land, information that would have implicated several important men. Rollins was seen speaking with her the day before she died." "And you think he killed her? Or knows who did?" Chenoa's eyes flashed with determination. "Justice must be done." Sam leaned back against the cave wall, sighing heavily. "Justice is a rare commodity out here, only because too few are willing to fight for it." She fixed him with a steady gaze. "Are you one of those few, Samuel Quinn?" The question hung between them, challenging everything Sam had come to believe about survival on the frontier. Before he could answer, the distant whinny of a horse caught their attention. "Domino," Sam whispered, moving to the cave entrance. Sure enough, his paint horse stood at the mouth of the canyon, apparently unharmed. Sam whistled softly, and the horse trotted toward the sound, stopping near the hidden crevice. "I told you he was smart," Chenoa said, a hint of pride in her voice. They spent the night in the cave, taking turns keeping watch. In the close confines, Sam became acutely aware of Chenoa's presence, her steady breathing, the occasional murmured word in Apache as she dreamed. By morning, he had made a decision. "I'll help you find Rollins," he told her as they prepared to leave their shelter. "But we do it my way. No confronting him directly until we know more." Chenoa's face lit up with a smile that made Sam's chest tighten inexplicably. "I knew you were a just man beneath that hard exterior. Don't go thinking too highly of me," he warned. "I've got my own reasons for wanting to find Rollins." "Of course," she agreed, though her knowing smile suggested she believed otherwise. They continued north, but more cautiously now, staying off the main trails and traveling during the cooler hours of morning and evening. Sam abandoned his original plan of heading directly to the Coleman mining camp, instead opting to approach from the west, through rougher country where Jenkins would be less likely to follow. During their journey, Sam found himself growing increasingly comfortable with Chenoa's presence. She moved through the landscape with a natural grace, spotting game trails and water sources he might have missed. In the evenings, she shared stories of her childhood, straddling 2 cultures, learning both her mother's Apache traditions and her father's military discipline. "My father loved my mother deeply," she said one night as they sat beside a small fire. "He used to say she saved him twice, once from his wounds, and once from his loneliness." "They were lucky to find each other," Sam said, poking at the fire with a stick. "It was not luck," Chenoa corrected. "It was courage. The courage to see beyond differences, beyond fear. My father could have retreated to the safety of his own kind after he recovered. My mother could have sent him away rather than risk the disapproval of her tribe. But they chose each other despite everything. Sam was silent, contemplating her words. For years, he had convinced himself that attachment was a liability in the harsh reality of frontier life. Yet here was evidence to the contrary, a love that had bridged seemingly insurmountable divides. What happened to them in the end, he asked. My father died believing in something greater than himself, Chenoa said softly. My mother lived honoring his memory and teaching me to walk proudly in both worlds. Is that not a success, even if it ended in loss? Before Sam could answer, Domino's ears pricked forward alertly. A moment later, they heard the sound of hoofbeats approaching. They quickly doused the fire and retreated into the shadows of a nearby rock outcropping, Sam with his revolver drawn. The riders passed close enough for their conversation to be heard clearly. Said they were headed toward Coleman's place. One man was saying, Rollins wants the girl alive if possible. Says she's stirring up trouble with the army about that dead squaw. What about Quinn? Another voice asked. Dead or alive, but preferably breathing. Rollins has questions about that ledger, and who else has seen it? The riders continued past their hiding place, 5 men in total, all heavily armed. When they were safely gone, Sam turned to Chenoa, whose face had hardened into a mask of anger. Now we know Rollins is definitely at the Coleman camp, she said, and that he ordered Sarah's death. We know he's connected to it, Sam cautioned. We still need proof. The only proof I need is his confession, Chenoa said fiercely. And I will have it. Sam grasped her shoulders firmly. Listen to me. These men won't hesitate to kill you. Your friend's death will go unavenged, and whatever information she had will die with you. Chenoa's anger faltered slightly. What would you have me do? We need to be smarter than they are, Sam said. I have a plan, but it will require patience. 2 days later, they reached the outskirts of the Coleman mining operation, a collection of crude buildings nestled in a valley where a creek had been dammed and diverted for washing ore. From their vantage point on a ridge, they observed the comings and goings of miners, supply wagons, and armed guards. Rollins will be in the main house, Sam said, indicating the largest structure. Coleman's a figurehead. Everyone knows Rollins is the real power behind this operation. How do we get to him? Chenoa asked. Sam pointed to a wagon approaching the camp. Those are the supplies I was meant to deliver. They'll be wondering what happened to me. So you will walk into their trap? Chenoa looked at him incredulously. Not exactly. Sam outlined his plan. He would approach the camp openly, claiming to have been delayed by Apache raiders who stole his horse. He would say he completed the journey on foot, leaving the supplies cached nearby. While the camp was distracted by the recovery of the supplies, Chenoa would search Rollins' office for any evidence linking him to Sarah's death. It is too dangerous, Chenoa protested. Rollins will recognize you immediately. Rollins has never seen my face, Sam explained. He hired me through intermediaries. He knows my name, but not what I look like. After much debate, Chenoa reluctantly agreed to the plan. They made their way down to the creek, where Sam deliberately soaked himself to appear as if he'd been traveling hard. He smeared dirt on his face and tore his shirt for good measure. Wait for my signal, he told Chenoa. 3 shots in quick succession means trouble. Otherwise, meet me at the ridge at midnight. Chenoa caught his arm as he turned to go. Be careful, Samuel Quinn. Remember, you are mine now. I expect you to return. The intensity in her eyes made Sam's breath catch. On impulse, he leaned forward and pressed his lips briefly to hers. For luck, he murmured, then turned and stumbled toward the camp before she could respond. His reception at the mining camp went exactly as planned. The foreman was suspicious but relieved that the supplies hadn't been lost. A search party was quickly organized to retrieve the cached goods, which, of course, didn't exist. Sam had bought Chenoa at least an hour to search Rollins' office. He was escorted to the main house, ostensibly to report directly to Coleman. Inside, he was left in a lavishly appointed sitting room that seemed wildly out of place in the rough mining camp. A few minutes later, a door opened, and Victor Rollins himself entered, a tall man with cold eyes and an immaculately trimmed beard. Mr. Quinn, I presume? Rollins said, studying Sam carefully. You've caused quite a commotion, arriving on foot with tales of Apache raiders. Sam maintained his role as the beleaguered courier. Just doing my job, sir. Thought it best to report directly rather than lose the supplies entirely. Indeed. Rollins circled Sam slowly. Curious, though. The Apache have been relatively peaceful in this area recently, and my men reported seeing you traveling with a young woman of mixed blood. Sam's stomach tightened, but he kept his expression neutral. Don't know what they saw, sir. I've been alone since the attack. Have you? Rollins stopped directly in front of Sam. Harlan Jenkins seems to think otherwise. He described a rather dramatic escape involving your paint horse. Before Sam could react, the door behind him opened, and two armed men entered. Rollins smiled coldly. I think we have much to discuss, Mr. Quinn, starting with the whereabouts of a certain ledger and your lovely Apache companion. Sam was disarmed and bound to a chair in Rollins' office, the very room Chenoa was supposed to be searching. He prayed she had seen his capture and stayed hidden. I'll make this simple, Rollins said, leaning against his desk. Tell me where the girl is and who else has seen the contents of my ledger, and your death will be quick. I travel alone, Sam insisted, and I delivered your ledger to Marshall Parker in Tucson months ago. If you're still free, I'm guessing he was on your payroll too. Rollins struck him hard across the face. Parker is dead. Unfortunate accident. But before he died, he assured me the ledger was secure. Then you appeared, working for a mysterious client, and suddenly my ledger is missing. Maybe you should keep better track of your property, Sam said through bloodied lips. Oh, I intend to. Rollins nodded to one of his men, who delivered a vicious punch to Sam's midsection, starting with reclaiming everything that's mine, including the Apache girl who's been asking questions about Sarah White Feather. Sam struggled to breathe through the pain. Never met her. No. Rollins retrieved a paper from his desk. My men found this in your saddlebags when they searched the camp perimeter. Interesting reading. It was a letter written in a feminine hand. With a sinking heart, Sam recognized it as belonging to Chenoa. A letter to the Army superintendent detailing her suspicions about Sarah's death and naming Rollins as a person of interest. Your companion is quite literate for a half-breed, Rollins remarked. Quite specific in her accusations, too. Unfortunately for her, no one cares about a dead Indian laundress, particularly one who was stupid enough to threaten the wrong people. So you did kill her, Sam said. I merely pointed out to certain parties that she represented a problem. How they solved that problem was their affair. Rollins set the letter down. Now, where is Chenoa James? My sources tell me she's been gathering evidence, speaking to witnesses. That needs to stop. Sam said nothing, earning himself another blow. Through the window behind Rollins, he caught a flash of movement, a shadow passing quickly out of sight. Your loyalty is admirable but misplaced, Rollins continued. The girl is already dead. Jenkins found her hiding place an hour ago. Sam's blood ran cold. You're lying. Am I? Rollins nodded to one of his men, who opened the door to admit Harlan Jenkins. The bounty hunter sauntered in, holding a familiar beaded bracelet that Sam had seen on Chenoa's wrist. Found this on her, Jenkins said, tossing it onto the desk. She put up quite a fight for a woman. Had to get rough with her. Sam lunged forward despite his restraints, nearly toppling his chair. If you've harmed her, you'll what? Jenkins laughed. You ain't exactly in a position to make threats, Quinn. Rollins studied Sam's reaction with interest. Well, it seems our courier has developed an attachment to the girl. How unfortunate for you both. A distant commotion interrupted the conversation, shouts and the sound of running feet. One of Rollins' men entered hurriedly. Sir, there's a fire at the ore processing shed. Rollins cursed. Deal with it, and double the guard on the main house. As the man left, Rollins turned to Jenkins. Where's the girl's body? Jenkins shifted uncomfortably. Well, that's the thing. She jumped into the creek when I cornered her. Current took her downstream. I only managed to grab this off her wrist. Hope surged through Sam. Chenoa was alive and creating a distraction. Find her, Rollins ordered. Dead or alive. Preferably dead at this point. Jenkins nodded and left. Rollins turned back to Sam, drawing a revolver from his desk drawer. It seems our conversation will need to be abbreviated, Mr. Quinn. A pity. I had more questions for you. As Rollins raised the gun, the window behind him shattered. Chenoa leaped through the opening, landing on Rollins' back with a force that drove him to the floor. The revolver discharged into the ceiling as they struggled. The guard turned, momentarily confused by the sudden attack. Sam took advantage of the distraction to drive his chair backward into the man's legs, sending them both crashing to the floor. Though still bound, Sam managed to roll, bringing his boots down hard on the guard's head. Across the room, Chenoa and Rollins fought for control of the revolver. Despite her smaller size, Chenoa moved with the practiced skill of someone trained in combat, using leverage rather than strength. She slammed Rollins' gun hand against the edge of the desk, once, twice, until the weapon clattered to the floor. Rollins roared with rage, throwing Chenoa off him. She rolled nimbly to her feet, snatching a letter opener from the desk and holding it before her like a knife. "You killed Sarah," she said, her voice deadly calm. "Confess it." Rollins laughed, blood trickling from a cut on his temple. "Your friend was a fool. She thought she could stop progress with her pathetic evidence. The army wasn't interested in her claims then, and they won't be interested now." "I'm not interested in the army's justice," Chenoa replied. "I want the truth. For Sarah." More commotion echoed from outside. The fire was spreading. Rollins glanced toward the door, calculating his chances. "The truth? The truth is that people like you and your friend will always lose. This is white man's country now. The sooner your kind accepts that, the better." Sam had managed to work one hand free from his restraints during the confrontation. "You're wrong," he said, catching Chenoa's eye. "And you're finished, Rollins." With a subtle nod to Chenoa, Sam lunged forward, still partially bound to the chair. Rollins turned to face this new threat, exactly as Chenoa had anticipated. She moved with lightning speed, striking not to kill but to disable, driving the letter opener deep into Rollins' shoulder. The man howled in pain, staggering backward. Chenoa retrieved the fallen revolver and aimed it steadily at Rollins' heart. "For Sarah," she said quietly. "Chenoa, wait," Sam urged. "Not like this." She hesitated, her finger on the trigger. "He needs to stand trial," Sam continued. "Let the world know what he did. Let Sarah's story be heard. Death is too easy for him." The moment stretched taut between them. Then, slowly, Chenoa lowered the gun. "You're right. Justice, not vengeance. That is what Sarah would have wanted." Using cord from the window curtains, they bound Rollins securely. The fire had drawn most of the camp's attention, giving them the opportunity to slip out with their prisoner. They found Domino waiting patiently behind the main house, exactly where Chenoa had left him. "How did you escape, Jenkins?" Sam asked as they made their way out of the camp. Chenoa smiled grimly. "He is not as skilled a tracker as he believes. I let him follow me to the creek, left my bracelet where he would find it, then doubled back. He is probably still searching the water downstream." 3 days later, they rode into Fort McDowell with Victor Rollins bound and gagged across a borrowed horse. Marshal James Thornton was initially skeptical of their accusations until Sam produced evidence they had taken from Rollins' office. Letters implicating him in land fraud, bribery of officials, and orders to silence the White Feather Woman permanently. "This is enough to hang him several times over," Thornton said, reviewing the documents. "The Army will be interested in these land deals too. They involve reservation boundaries." As Rollins was led away to the fort stockade, Chenoa turned to Sam. "It is finished. Sarah can rest now." Sam nodded, suddenly uncertain about what came next. The mission that had united them was complete. "What will you do now?" he asked. Chenoa looked at him thoughtfully. "I still have a debt to repay. You are still mine to protect." "I think we're even after that rescue at Rollins' office," Sam said with a small smile. "Perhaps." She stepped closer to him. "But there are other reasons I might choose to stay with you, Samuel Quinn." Sam felt something shift inside him, the walls he had built around his heart beginning to crumble. "I've been thinking about that ranch I mentioned. Peaceful place, far from trouble." "It sounds lonely," Chenoa observed. "It might be," Sam admitted, "unless I had the right company." Chenoa's smile bloomed slowly, like a desert flower after rain. "Are you asking me to accompany you, just Sam?" "I'm suggesting that maybe we're both tired of being alone." Sam took her hand, surprising himself with the gesture. "Maybe there's a reason we found each other out there. You are beginning to believe in spirits and purpose after all," she teased. "I'm beginning to believe in you," he said simply. 6 months later, Samuel Quinn stood on the porch of a modest ranch house nestled in a valley near the Colorado border, far from Apache conflicts, mining disputes, and the ghosts of their past. Behind him, Chenoa emerged from the house, wiping her hands on her apron. "The cattle look healthy," she observed, coming to stand beside him. "The new bull was worth every penny." Sam nodded, slipping an arm around her waist. The simple gold band on her finger caught the sunlight. They had married 3 months earlier in a ceremony that blended her mother's Apache traditions with Christian vows, attended by her reservation cousins and a handful of friendly settlers. "Did I ever tell you what my name means?" Chenoa asked, leaning against him. "You haven't," Sam realized. "White dove," she said. "A symbol of peace." Sam smiled, thinking of how perfectly it suited her. This woman who had bridged worlds, who had taught him that justice could coexist with mercy, that love could flourish even in the harshest landscapes. "I was wrong, you know," he said, watching the sun set behind distant mountains. "About being alone. About what it takes to survive out here." "Oh." Chenoa looked up at him. "It's not about avoiding attachments." Sam turned to face her fully. "It's about finding the right ones. The ones worth fighting for." Chenoa reached up to touch his face, her expression soft in the fading light. "You're mine now, Samuel Quinn. And I am yours. That is how we both survive." As twilight descended on their small corner of the frontier, Sam Quinn knew he had found something he had stopped believing existed. Not just love or companionship, but a true home. Not in a place, but in a person. In this woman who had claimed him as hers on that fateful day when he saved her from wild wolves, never suspecting that in truth, she would be the one to save him.